I think the first question most people ask is, what is a business broker and what do we do?
I don't think a lot of people know what business brokers are. I really don't. I think that they figure, oh, if I want to sell my business or get rid of my business, I have to close it. And they don't even think about the option of being able to sell it. So education on what a business broker is great.
Simply put, we help business owners find buyers for their business, and we help buyers find a business. It's really that simple.
Yeah, I mean, we'll value a business, we'll find the right buyer, we'll put the buyer and seller together, and we'll navigate that process for them. So we're keeping that process together for them, and we keep all of it fully confidential until the closing. So that's kind of the job of a business broker is to consult and guide buyers and sellers through the process and keeping it all confidential, which I think is probably the part that people forget the most, is they need to keep it confidential.
And like, how big are these businesses? Would you be selling like a restaurant? Would you be selling a major conglomerate? What's like a general value of the businesses that you're selling?
Well, we often say, well, it'll be 50,000 to 20 million. I mean, we serve a wide variety of different businesses. I would say the average for our first choice is under 10 million easily, but we'll sell very small businesses. We'll sell $50,000 or $100,000 business in our community. We're known as a Main Street business brokerage, but we definitely have offices, especially in strategic areas, that handle a lot larger transactions, almost like having a mini M&A, mergers and acquisitions division where they handle some of those larger deals. I think in Las Vegas, we're dealing with one that's close to 30 million. I don't think the price will end up being there, but it'll be close-ish, and it's a medical facilities, and it's multiple medical facilities, and we run into that quite often. So really, restaurants, dry cleaners.
I imagine for those bigger transactions, you bring on additional professionals, whether it's real estate related.
Absolutely.
It does happen, but these are the same businesses that you drive by every day, whether it's be the laundromat, the dry cleaner, the manufacturing company, even medical, dental practices. But there really isn't any type of business that we can handle. We are, as Linda said, a Main Street business broker. So it could be any type of business, whether it's retail, wholesale, doesn't really matter.
So you two co-founded FCBB 27 years ago. How did you both enter into this industry?
Good question. I think it was really by chance.
Yeah,
and that, it seemed like, oh, this is something that no one seems to know what a business broker is. And so we investigated it. And upon investigation, we said, this really looks interesting.
It's a very niche business. It really is. And we were consulting with business owners, but not to this extent. And they, well, great, you can consult with me, but I need a business. And so there we ended up in the industry, and we never looked back. No. I think the biggest mistake we've made is not getting into it sooner. We love the business, and most business brokers that enjoy just entrepreneurship and dealing with individuals that love business, they find themselves in a career that they never see themselves getting out of. And there are business brokers that literally are in their 90s still doing business. Experience counts in this business.
So beyond like talking to so many different entrepreneurs and getting into the weeds and all different types of businesses, what has continued to attract you to being a business broker and running this sizable franchise organization?
I would say the variety of businesses we deal with. We go into a business and we go, for example, into a restaurant, we go into the kitchen and take a look. These are the areas that a customer would never see. It's just the variety and the different types of businesses. As an example, one time I was working with a company, believe it or not, was $130 million. I walked out of that meeting and went and helped one of my agents with a $50,000 pizza restaurant, all within the same hour. It's that variety. And I don't think Linda and I look at it as a job.
No.
Because we actually enjoy what we do. And you'll find that most successful business brokers, they really enjoy what they do.
It's just interesting. Yeah. I mean, when you think about it, any business you go in, as soon as you become a business broker and you start to look at the business from a whole different aspect, when you walk into a restaurant, you think, I wonder what they have in the kitchen. What equipment do they have here? And you start to think about, where could they increase their bottom line? And it's just a different feeling. You get to see everything that runs that business instead of just the customer side. It's
Good and bad.
Yeah, good and bad. That's true.
Well, yeah, I would say for us, it's kind of similar from the franchise side at Vetted Biz and Visa franchise, where we just see so many different business models, and it's never ending, and it's like a continued education.
Yeah,
And I imagine for you guys, you're exploring that many more different industries, because franchising is pretty. There's a lot less industries. Like, you can't be doing a heavy industrial business for franchising, but for you guys, you could sell that business.
Yes, in fact, we do a lot of franchise resales also, whether it be 7-Eleven, Dairy Queens,
hair salons, like the Fantastic Sam's and Sports Clips and all those.
We do a lot of those resales.
Yeah, you're right. It's a continual education, and I think that's what I find most enjoyable. And you're dealing with so many different personalities. Business owners are a unique group. They're just,
for better or worse, they went into entrepreneurship. I would say the US, you're not forced to go into entrepreneurship like some emerging markets where really to just live, you got to be an entrepreneur. Where the US, there generally is a safe, relatively safe alternative, and you can get a steady salary doing something else. Yep. So definitely takes a special individual.
It does. And somebody that's willing to take a risk, and we, being in Las Vegas, we always say the biggest gamblers are business owners. They're the people that have really gone out there and made business, and they've adapted to the change in the economic climate, et cetera. So I think it's
and if it doesn't work out, then the business goes up for sale, and another buyer is coming, willing to take it over and just keep on growing that business.
Yeah, a repeat business in business brokerage is huge.
Tremendous. A buyer.
Exactly. I'm part of a few entrepreneurial groups here in South Florida, and there are serial entrepreneurs that are just going out, buying smaller mom and pops with business brokers, rolling into their system, selling that. So I imagine you've had a lot of repeat clients over the years.
Huge. Yeah. It's huge.
And I look at it and I always say that it's their mini empire. So if I have, maybe some younger buyers coming in that are either partners, people partner with siblings, or they're partner with somebody that, friend from college or whatever, and they start to build their little empire of different businesses. And they may be strategic purchases where they're buying businesses that can work with one another, or maybe they'll absorb one business into another, or they'll buy all different types of pizza restaurants and roll them into one name eventually, so many different things. It's really interesting to see people's ideas and what they do with it.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's so many shared learnings that you can pass to your other clients. So for those that are not familiar, can you tell us a little bit about the competitive landscape? And I understand there's other franchises in the space. There's independent business brokers that are a big percentage of the market. Would just love to hear a bit about how the competitive landscape is, and then how FCBB differentiates itself.
You would think that there are a lot of competitors, and especially when we start to talk about the fees that are made by business brokers, but it's kind of a secret industry still. So even though it's been around for ages, it is, as you say, Patrick, it's those one-offs, mom and pops out there, but a lot of them don't do a lot of listings. They maybe will do 3 or 4 listings in a year. They'll do those, they'll sell them, they'll make a nice living, and they aren't really where a buyer can go to see a variety of different businesses. And so that kind of sets those apart from us for sure, because they don't have the inventory. They kind of have their base of business, and that's about it. And they can make a nice living that way.
Well, there are, according to, I believe, the SBA, there's 30 million small businesses in the US, and there are only 4,000 business brokers. So I don't really call it a competitive industry, because we don't come across the competitors usually when we're dealing with a business owner. How do we compare with those? I would say it's basically our training. We have hired in business brokers from other franchises, and we require them to go through our training. And sometimes they'll go through and say, wow, I didn't know this even existed. The way you guys do it. And so,
it's funny because we call it First Choice University. So they have 44 courses they go through, and then they go through a week of live case studies and valuations. And at the end, some of the quotes that we get for testimonials are, I didn't know what I didn't know.
I would say because there's so few of us, it's not that common to actually talk to a business owner where he's talking to 2, 3, 4 other business brokers. It just doesn't seem to be once in a while, but really that's not the case.
But what I think for us, what sets us apart is the training, and then we have the systems and the support. So the training really gets people, the foundation gets them started, and all of it goes through First Choice University Corporate. So that's supported for all of our franchisees. So even if a franchisee is new, we're having them bring on agents right away. So they build that synergy and build up that listing business or inventory in their office. And then we have the systems and the support to keep them moving forward so that they're not feeling lost. And you work with franchises, they can only absorb so much during training. They need somebody to be there. They're actually doing the
I think the main reason for our support is because we are a boots on the ground company. Linda and I are still involved in business brokerage. You really can't help it. It just happens with your clientele. So when a franchisee is saying, I have a question, I have a situation I need to be covered, we can answer it. We're not just saying, oh, well, let me just defer you to somebody, because we are a boots on the ground company.
Yeah, you have experience. What types of backgrounds does someone need to own a First Choice franchise?
We have such a variety of backgrounds.
Not sales, not necessarily sales.
And it's not. And I think most people think it is sales, and it isn't necessarily. Great. If somebody has great sales skills, that's great. But it's really more about their follow-up, their ability to navigate, consult with people, to maybe professionally push them along through a process. And that's, again, business brokerage is not an event, right? It's a process. When you sell a business, it's a process. I think that it's incredible for most people getting into business brokerage, because all of their background, no matter what they've done in their life, they can apply it to business brokerage.
Just to give you an example, some of the franchisees that we have, CPAs, attorneys, geologists, we have an
airline pilot. We had a DEA.
Just about any type of background you can imagine. Who's, I would say, a people person, and but not necessarily hardcore salespeople. They usually are not.
Well, you probably have to big fair degree of empathy. Someone's selling a business that maybe they founded and they've worked 60, 70 hours in for years. So.
Mm-hmm.
We always say we're in a life-changing event, so it's got to be someone, as you say, has that empathy there.
Yeah, I've seen stress, in terms of stress levels, like losing your job or business is worse than losing a loved one. Surprisingly, it's that big of a life event.
It's so true. That's so intuitive. That's exactly it. You have to have the ability to look somebody in the eye as a business owner and understand where they're coming from. I don't want to work with employees anymore. I don't want to have to deal with the stress of owning the business. And you have to be able to sometimes talk them off the ledge,
and their identity. As opposed to, UK, maybe a little like the US, but other parts of Europe and the world, your identity is not as tied to your career and what you do. But here in the States, it's really tied closely to who you are. So if they're letting go of that, I can imagine it being a little dramatic.
It is. It definitely is. And in that case, it doesn't matter if the business is 30,000 or 30 million. The same personality, the same therapist side of you needs to come out. Broker.
And so these different backgrounds are pretty interesting. I'm sure they all add to their position. Like the DA agent, I'm sure, is amazing at doing the valuations and really getting into the details. Mm-hmm. And the pilot following the procedures that you at FCBB lays out in terms of running the franchise. But in terms of these 22 different states, what licenses do they need to get? Does it vary across every state?
It does vary. The licensed states, California, Arizona, Nevada, Florida, Minnesota, there's only about 16 states that actually require a real estate license. Even though we have nothing to do with selling houses, it's the same real estate license.
That is interesting. And I think a lot of people go, what? Why do I need that? I'm selling businesses, but sometimes there are leases and sometimes there are properties involved. And those states that require a license see it tied in. And, I find it interesting that not more states require it.
Yeah, I believe it's 16 states. That's all there
Yeah,
is.
it just seems like
require
more
license.
states, but they should require it.
Yes,
I mean, you are.
it's good. It's
you're-
actually good.
You're touching people's biggest asset in most cases, and that's there should be some accountability for it. So, but I really feel like that's got a lot to do with it. Yeah.
And how do the franchisees manage the day-to-day operations?
Well,
In terms of in terms of
What's a typical day look like for a FCBB franchisee?
So he or she would be working with agents in their office, so answering questions, working mentorship, that kind of a thing, working obviously on some of the marketing, no matter what type of marketing that they deal with. They communicate a lot with franchise support on the advertising and the listing packages that are put together for the businesses that are used with buyers. And of course, they're working with buyers and sellers quite often themselves. So, it's a nice balance, or it has to be a balance between working with their agents and that mentorship, working with buyers and sellers, and also looking after the office. And of course, they're able to rely on franchise support for that.
I think one of the nicest things about business brokerage is that it's basically a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 type of career. Most of our work is done during regular business hours. So our offices are not open on evenings or weekends or holidays. We're not driving anybody around. It's professional, and most of the work, I'd say 90%, maybe 95%, is done during regular 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. So our franchisees and their agents have a life.
Yeah.
That's good. A lot different than like a restaurant or a hair salon, where you're definitely gonna have to be working every Saturday or at least a few weekends a month.
It's interesting because you're saying that when we're talking about business owners and their hours. We have some of our best business brokers have been former clients where we sold their business for them and they've become business brokers.
That's interesting.
They don't want to lose that connection to business, but they don't want to own their own business. And we have had one agent that I'll never forget it. He said, "Why would I ever want to own my own business after I've gone through this process of owning it and all that stress, when I can be a business broker and own a little bit of all the businesses I have listed?" It's kind of a profound statement.
Yeah, it's true. And I think, depending on the personality and where you are in your career, there's pros and cons to both.
Exactly. That was his personal feeling. I think he felt a lot of stress from the business, where other people, like you say, they get their identity from their business. So, yeah.
Oh, for sure. And how do business brokers get paid, these agents that are part of a franchise, as well as how does the franchisee get paid?
Well, we get a percentage of the purchase price. The International Business Brokers Association some years ago did a survey amongst business brokers. They found that the average business broker charged between 10 and 20% of the purchase price. And first choice usually averages about 12.5 to 15% of the purchase price. The survey also found that 98% of all business brokers charged a minimum fee somewhere between $10,000 and $20,000. So minimum fee or the percentage, whichever was higher. First choice on the average charges about $15,000, minimum fee or the percentage, whichever is higher. And that's how the franchisee receives their fees. And if they have agents, and they would split that money 50-50, usually with an agent who they brought on, commission-only agents.
Interesting. Okay, so these are mostly 1099. They're contractors.
Mm-hmm.
They're all 1099 independents.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, how much does it cost? What's like a general investment range if you want to open up a first choice business brokerage? The
franchise fee, including the training and marketing, and we start off by giving the marketing, is $50,000. There's no inventory. It could be very minimal. They could even start on a virtual office, even work from home, or have a executive suite. So there's not a huge outlay over that $50,000.
And it's surprising because you think of the money that somebody can make even off of one transaction easily covers that. And we
you just need one or two small deals and get that back.
Yeah.
What regions and areas of the country do you want to open up? And
Well, we'd really like to get more onto the West Coast, but we have quite a concentration on the East Coast right now, but we'd like to get more in Florida. That's for sure. We know that's a huge market.
Yeah.
It's a hot state.
Yes, it is.
It is.
Atlanta, Georgia. Atlanta, Georgia would be good. We're looking to try to get a franchisee.
Washington State. Yeah.
Yes. So really, the whole country, and even we're looking right now to possibly expand into Canada, but right now we really would like the southern states. We're open to all the different areas.
Yeah, and international is cool. There's an opportunity there because business brokerage landscape isn't that dissimilar from this country to another.
I imagine, like, you probably know this much more than me, but like outside of Europe, the US, like a lot of when they're buying a business, it could be a company selling for 50 mil and the books are not good at all and taxes aren't paid. So I imagine outside the US and Canada, it's like a pretty tough transaction. Hopefully some of these governments though can implement more transparency and everything. So that would be a boom for your market.
Yeah. We would be interested in having something like a brokerage in Germany. We've looked at Germany and also the UK, so that is available, not as just an independent franchisee, but probably as an area developer. But those would be those markets are ripe for business brokerage.
They are, because it used to be you had the succession plan that would happen, right? It would go from the parents to the children to the grandchildren. You're just not seeing that anymore. There is such a lack of succession. So those business owners need to sell. It's different today than it has been in the past. It really is.
So millennials don't want to roll up their sleeves and work?
Not the same way that
not
they
in the
used
restaurants.
to. Not in the restaurant, the automotive shop or the dry cleaner. I want to do tech. Yeah, it's just a different landscape now with that, and the lack of succession has really opened up business for us in a different way.
I could see that being a really big market for you, because I've seen it where we've had a lot of Canadian and German clients. They sell the business. They don't want to stay in Germany or Canada. They want to come to the US. They want to go to California, Florida, enjoy the nice weather. So I could definitely see a booming market where maybe we could package that together, where we can help them find the E2 Visa franchise and you help them sell the business.
There you go.
Sounds
yeah.
good.
I mean, it truly, that's it. And, when they're selling, some people will sell a big business, something that has a lot of responsibility. And then they want to go into something that they've always wanted to do, like a little coffee shop, ice cream shop, or something like that. I can't tell you how many times that's happened. They're not ready for the rocking chair. They just don't want the big responsibility. Yeah,
no, it's well said. And curious to hear how your brokers have done during COVID as the markets really slowed down. How'd they do last year? How have they been doing in 2021?
Well, I want to go back to the recession. During the recession, though, after 2008, we actually still sold a lot of businesses because, remember, we're in the small business market. So being that it's still the dry cleaner, the laundromats, and those types of businesses, so we sold the businesses at lower amounts. During COVID, actually 2019 in business brokerage was unreal. Absolutely, it was not even, there's not words
off
to
the
describe.
charts.
Yes, 2020, believe it or not, pretty close. Where we're still selling businesses.
And I think we took.
Okay.
I think
life goes on.
Yeah, exactly. We did a little hit in the beginning, like, okay, what's going to happen? What's going to happen out there? And everybody's kind of sitting back and nervous. But as soon as adjustments started to take place and people were evolving with what was going on, they did really well. So some business owners kind of closed the doors and sat back to see what was going to happen, and others evolved. They made the transition necessary. Mm-hmm. And they not only
I think the franchises that we work with that adapted fast and made quick decisions have really done well over this crisis. And even for us, being able to do, big consulting projects over Zoom rather than meeting in person can really save a lot of time and money, and just things can happen a lot faster with that.
They can, and you're not, you still can see each other. It's not exactly the same as being with the person, shaking their hand, and
Sure.
we're huggers in our office, so we're hugging clients. It's just to me, we lost a little bit of that, but we were able to make that up in different ways. And you're right. It does save. It saves on some of the expenses, and it saves on time. We do Zoom meetings between our buyers and sellers as our initial consultation after they've gone through the initial steps. Yeah. We pre-record meetings that we have with sellers to just describe their business to a buyer. So we've done some things. We've evolved with it, and not that we didn't do that previously, but we do it more now than we've ever done.
I think there were sellers who came through the recession and worked in COVID and said, okay, you know what? I've made my money. I'm done. I'm ready to move on. And we have buyers who are saying, I'm looking for deals. I'm looking for deals. And so we put them together. And so for us, COVID has not really significantly impacted business brokerage.
That's probably a big advantage, though, of having such a big market with, you have 700 plus listings, where if you were an independent shop, you can't really play matchmaker as well. You just don't have the buyers or the sellers to do that.
Yeah. And I think, you talked about earlier about having that empathy. I think it's the same thing during COVID, the same thing during the recession. People were feeling like, I'm going to wait until I can get more money out of my business. This time, those that went through the recession and now we're going through COVID, I don't have the stomach to do it again. I don't want to do it. I don't care if I have to take a little bit less. I'm not going to do it. I had 2 sign companies that were listed in our office. One of them decided to close their door. The other one adapted and went after business because they knew people were going to need the little signs that said 6 feet apart and all of that. And they went up about 23% in business, while the other one took a nosedive, of course. So it depends on the personality of the entrepreneur, just the same way it does of the business broker. How did they take it? Were they willing to adapt, make phone calls, get involved with people, or did they just want to sit back and see what was going to happen?
It's well said. And I guess to conclude our discussion, how do you see the business brokerage market evolving over the coming years, this century?
There is so much business out there to be had right now. It's unbelievable.
Business brokerage is really where I would say real estate was, maybe in the 70s, where, you'd heard about some of these franchises. But really, today it's just growing and growing. And I believe that because we're educating more people that what a business broker actually does, it's really helping. So for people entering into business brokerage, especially with First Choice, they've got one heck of an opportunity to take advantage of this.
Yeah, baby boomers, lots going on out there. And we're still seeing businesses opening. I mean, Small Business Administration is still reporting record highs of people opening businesses.
Yeah, it's 5.5% loan, 15% down, 20% down. You can do a lot with that.
Yeah, you really, really can. And for the industry right now, the education and the forms and all of the techniques that are used to properly guide people through the process gives comfort, because they're nervous. Buyers and sellers are nervous right now, and they have a right to be, but it's not stopping them from buying. They just want to work with somebody they feel comfortable with.
Perfect. Well, on that note, really appreciate your time today. And for those that are interested in scheduling a call with Jeff, Linda, and the folks from their team, you can fill out the survey form on their profile on Vetted Biz. I'll submit a link, and you'll have a call to see if FCBB, First Choice Business Brokerage, could be a good fit for you. Thanks again, Jeff and Linda.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you.